Hello everyone! So for today's card I'm using the Crafter's Workshop Mini Cosmic Swirl stencil, and I'm taping it onto my craft sheet with just some painter's tape over some white cardstock and just trying to make sure I've got it as flush to the cardstock as possible. It's not going to be completely perfect, but I'm okay with that. And then I'm using my color spritzer, which Ranger just re-released a few months ago now. It's the Distress Marker Spritzer tool. It's the same thing. I've had mine from Stampin' Up! For eons. And it's still going strong, so I didn't need to buy a new one. But yeah, you just pop your marker into it, and you can use it with the Distress markers, you can use it with pretty much any type of marker. And I always hold it the way I do so that the marker is against my wrist. I just find I have more control that way, and it's not kind of bouncing around everywhere, and I just find it easier to use it that way. So I'm using 3 different distress markers for this. I started with Shaded Lilac, and then I went in with Ice Spruce, and then I'm adding some peacock feathers. Just kind of randomly spritzing it here and there until I'm happy with it. So I did the first 3 colors, and then I went back with the Shaded Lilac again, just to kind of fill in a few of the little sparser spots. I wanted a bit more purple into it. So yeah, really, really easy. Kind of a fun technique. I've shown, I can't remember if I did a video or it was a blog post like years ago, even showing how you could use your Copic markers with this. You just pop out the one little chamber, and yeah, it's a fun little tool. So once I was done with that, I peeled off the stencil, which is always the funnest part. And since I use the distress markers, this was really easy to clean up. I just took a baby wipe. You could run it under the sink as well. And it just comes right off. So wipe that with a baby wipe, set the tape aside to use for a later project, and then wiped off my craft mat. Now I can go on to the card. So I used an My Favorite Things butterfly die to die cut some purple cardstock. And this is just some old, I think it's Lovely Lilac from Stampin' Up! That was like retired years ago. But the color was good, so I used that. And then I'm stamping a sentiment from my Winged Greeting set onto some white cardstock. And then I'm going to die cut it with MFT's Circle Stacks dies. And then kind of line it up on the stencil paper to see where I wanted it. And then I decided to trim the stenciled cardstock down a bit. It was originally 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I was going to do a full card front with it, but I decided I didn't want to do that. So I trimmed it down, and then I'm going to trim down the circle here, just so that it's got the nice straight edge. You could adhere it first and then trim it down, but I just used my paper trimmer. And then I was going to adhere it flat to this piece here and then change my mind at the last minute, which is good because it would have been almost impossible to pull up, and just grab some of my dimensionals and pop those onto there. So I've got a little bit of dimension. I didn't want to put too much onto this piece of cardstock because you go to all the work of stenciling it and you want it to stand out. So I just added the circle, and then I'm going to adhere the butterfly. I adhered it just by the body because I wanted the wings to kind of be popped up. And then when I add the stickles to it later in the video here, you'll see when it dries, the wings just kind of curl a little bit on the cardstock and pop up even more, which is super fun. So press that down, and then I grabbed a piece of black cardstock that I just trimmed down to a narrow little strip, and I'm going to adhere that to the side of this cardstock just to kind of tie in the black just a little bit more so it wasn't standing out so much. And then of course I had to grab some enamel dots. So I've got my basic gray enamel dots and just added a few black ones in different sizes above and below the main image here. And then I'm just going to adhere that flat to my card. I was going to pop that up on dimension 2, but I thought with everything I had going on, I'll just keep it flat. So standard A2 size card, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 with the fold at the top. So adhere that, and then for the inside of the card, it was a good thing I trimmed down the piece for the outside because then it gave me something to adhere on the inside of the card and then didn't waste it. So I'm going to adhere that. I die cut another butterfly just for the fun of it, and then I've got a second sentiment from the Winged Greeting stamp set. So I'm going to adhere the stenciled cardstock first just so I know where everything's going to go. And then I've got my butterfly, and then I'm going to use my stamp positioner for this sentiment because I want it lined up along the bottom of the card. So get it stamped on my stamp positioner, line it up just along the bottom here, and then I'm going to stamp it again with that Hero Arts black ink. And then I'm just going to adhere the butterfly. This time I want this one to stay flat. So I just add little dabs of glue to the body and to the edges of the wings, on any of the areas where there's a bit more cardstock to adhere. It's super simple. So get that adhered, and then of course I'm going to add some stickles to the butterfly. So I grabbed my grape ice stickles, which are like really thick and chunky, and completely covered the entire butterfly. It didn't take very long. I didn't apply it too thickly, but I did cover it completely. If you wanted it to dry faster, you just do tiny little dabs, but I wanted this to be coated. And then you'll see in the pictures at the end, it just made the cardstock curl a little bit and just gives it so much sparkle. It's so fun. So as always, I will post a link below to all the supplies used, and I'll post a link to my blog post. And yeah, Caitlin's in her playpen behind me singing along. So yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!